With the launch of the Galaxy Watch 4 and Watch 4 Classic at Unpacked, Google and Samsung's collaboration has now come to fruition, and we've had some brief hands-on time to gather some of our initial thoughts, so let's get into it. Thanks for watching 9 to 5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. So the good news, even right at the top of this, is that even after just a short period of playing around with this fusion of Tizen and Wear OS 3, the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Watch 4 Classic, at least as far as we're concerned, are fine additions to the smartwatch ecosystem and likely to be the only options to consider as far as Wear OS stands right now. You can choose from two distinct designs, but luckily this doesn't really change the experience anywhere drastically. The Galaxy Watch 4 is simply omitting that rotating crown in favour of a display edge gesture that effectively achieves the same thing as the rotating crown bezel on the Watch 4 Classic. Much of the experience here is familiar, while under the hood, the Galaxy Watch 4 and the Watch 4 Classic are running Wear OS 3, the first watches to do so, which is a Tizen skin running on top of Wear OS essentially. This brings about some minor usability differences if you're used to Wear OS, but this doesn't really take much or very long to get to grips with. It's all pretty much self-explanatory. The only thing I think you will maybe change is the swipe downwards. That takes you on the Galaxy Watch 4 to all of your apps or an app screen in a kind of floating amorphous grid that is kind of fairly reminiscent of Apple's Watch OS. Tapping and holding on those app icons will let you adjust the layout of these apps, but my gut instinct, at least at this stage, has me feeling that the traditional list format that we're probably used to, while less visually appealing, is easier to grasp at first glance. And I say this as if you don't recognise an app by its very icon, then you might find yourself tapping around to find the one that you want, and that can be a little bit confusing. It is admittedly a minor issue, but I think it might be a problem nonetheless. On top of that, the pre-installed watch faces provide a number of great choices to complement the overall design of the Watch 4 and the Watch 4 Classic, but there isn't too much of a departure from previous iterations from Samsung. Both watches are really familiar and approachable. That's probably about the only thing I've really gathered from my brief hands-on time with them. I will note though that the performance was incredibly slick and smooth. There are no app hangs or loading slowdowns or anything like that to speak of. With every interaction, it felt more precise and as a result, more responsive overall. Given the bump the Exynos W920 processor is said to provide though, the Galaxy Watch 4 and Watch 4 Classic are easily the best performance in the Wear OS arena, and that's even just after a short period. Obviously, some of this may be the placebo effect in action, but I have to say, everything does feel kind of smooth and slick in a way that is hard to kind of quantify. Like I said, everything does feel vaguely familiar with a hint of Samsung though. The One UI touches don't necessarily detract too much from the overall experience, but the difference is pretty stark even from the TicWatch Pro 3 and E3 in terms of Wear OS. They're my 2 points or frames of reference, and I have to say, as it stands, I think this will blow those two watches out the water. Some of this most definitely is probably the placebo effect in action, but we're looking forward to really sinking our teeth into what this unique version of Wear OS 3 really provides in the coming weeks. That said, we do know for certain that the Snapdragon Wear 4100 and 4100 Plus chipsets will not fully support all of Wear OS 3 and the associated features, which definitely gives an indication of the overall performance gap here before you've even picked one up. Somewhat strangely, I have to admit that I'm not actually enamoured by the chunky design of the Watch Classic 4, but I do feel much more attached to the Watch 4 model, mainly due to its minimal aesthetic, and I'm sure some of you out there will feel the same way. Personally, I think the rotating crown just adds a little bit of bulk that I think might make it prone to snagging on a long sleeve shirt, for instance, or maybe just less comfortable if worn in bed. I will note that a bigger problem is the strap of the Watch 4 specifically though. It uses a combination clasp, but it fixes underneath rather than on top of the other strap itself, which means that nipping your skin when fitting is a real possibility and something that I experienced when I tried to put this on my own wrist. The traditional strap used on the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic did feel more secure in our brief encounter with both wearables. So to summarise, when the Watch 4 starts at $249, if you want a Wear OS watch in the very near future, then you kind of simply have to pick up either the Galaxy Watch 4 or the Watch 4 Classic. It really is that simple, and that's only just after a short period of time with both watches. We will have a full review though of both of these devices in the coming weeks, so stay tuned and as well if you have any questions or thoughts of these two products. then be sure to slap them in the comments sections below, and we'll do our utmost to answer as many as possible when the full review comes around. But until next time, this is Damien with 95 Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.